It's a pleasure to be here today with a great friend and one of our valued Weil leaders, Rob Carangelo. Rob has spent his entire career at Weil, like me, and has been the firm's general counsel for several years now, after having had a very successful career as a partner in our securities litigation practice. Thank you so much for joining me today, Rob.
Well, thank you, Barry. It's great to be here.
As you know from having seen these podcasts, I always like to start out by asking a little bit about your personal journey. Could you tell me a little bit about what drew you to the profession and ultimately to specialize in litigation at Weil?
Sure. Well, I'm one of those people, Barry, who always knew from a young age I wanted to be either a doctor or a lawyer. And I had both in my family. My uncle was the head of cancer research at the Mayo Clinic when I was younger, so on holidays he would always tell stories about saving people's lives. So medicine had an early edge. The problem was, as I got older, I really couldn't stand the sight of blood.
Join the club. I can't either.
So law school it was. And then after my 2L, I summered at a different firm. It wasn't Weil. And I thought I wanted to do corporate work. But at the end of the summer, I really didn't like it. I didn't want to go back to that firm afterward because they didn't have good litigation practice. But when I got back to school, I was talking to one of my colleagues on my journal, Diane Harvey. You probably remember.
I remember her well.
She summered at Weil, and she was going back to the Business and Securities Litigation Department, BSL as it was known back then. And it sounded interesting because it was litigation with a corporate flavor. So beginning of September, as a 3L, I interviewed. I guess it went okay.
Yes,
they
I guess
made
so.
me an offer, and from the day I started, I really it was a good fit for me. We had fun people. We would work late, have dinners in the conference room. We even had a young Mike Aiello as an associate in BSL. And
I remember that too.
Yeah.
He wrote a couple of memos to me when in that role.
Yes, I probably worked on it with him. and again, the work was exciting because it had that corporate flavor, and it was all different types of work, so it was exciting.
You know, as many of these interviews are done, I always find it fascinating to hear how people ended up thriving in whatever field of practice they are in at Weil. Rob, as I said at the outset, we're both lifers here. And in many of these roles that you have, including interviewing lateral partners, which we know you do, you often have to answer this next question, which is, why Weil? That is, what's our so-called special sauce?
Well, you're absolutely right, Barry. I've answered that question a lot over the years for many different constituents, but the answer's always been the same. I think it goes back to when I first started at the firm. When I first came to Weil, I thought I'd be there for 2 or 3 years, get the big firm experience.
Me too.
Go work at a Connecticut firm. I didn't want to spend. I lived in Connecticut. I didn't want to spend my whole career on the Metro North Railroad, but I guess that ship has sailed. But I liked the work. It was exciting. Every now and then I'd read about something. I was working on the Wall Street Journal. But the thing that really kept me at the firm beyond my 2 to 3 year window were the people, especially the partners. I worked a lot with Irwin and Greg and Joseph, and they really took an interest in my career development. They took an interest in my personal life. So I just never wanted to leave. And I think that really just increased exponentially when I became a partner.
Yeah, it seemed, a lot of us who are lifers have that same story. They're not necessarily thinking that you were going to be here for life, but the people made you stay. Obviously, the work is interesting and challenging, but the people is sort of that common element which had us all stay. So you've had a successful practice in securities litigation before the firm asked you several years ago to take that aside and to step out of that client practice and move into this incredibly important role as general counsel. No one knows how important that is more than I do. I know that there are a lot of stressful aspects of the job, okay? And as I told you when you took it, how difficult it was going to be. And I'm not sure that you necessarily believed me, but now I suspect you do. But I'm curious as to what you have found the most rewarding aspects of the role, which you have done like a knockout job for the past 3 years.
Well, thank you, Barry. But before I get to the rewarding aspects, I will say for the record, for my entire first year as general counsel, every time you introduced me, you told everyone I had the worst job in the entire law firm.
That is true.
But to me, it was a complete career change. It was something new. It was exciting. It was invigorating to be doing something different than what I have been doing the past 30 years. So that in itself was interesting. And of course, I enjoy working with firm leaders like yourself and others
Thank you.
to solve problems, prevent problems, so the firm's business can thrive. And I also like having 300 built-in clients. I mean, I really have gotten to know a lot of our partners around the world who I ordinarily never would have worked with if I'd continued practicing.
Well, I'm certainly very glad to have you as a strategic advisor. I think it's more than just a general counsel. And because so many issues come up on a daily basis, both in the typical general counsel role, but even broader than that. So in your role, though, you have to tell partners things that are in their best interests, but at least sometimes, right, they're not always what the partners want to hear. So what have you learned about the best way to give people advice so that they actually hear it and follow it effectively?
Yes, that's a great question. Listen, I think, trying to get people to listen to you, it's really helpful if you have a relationship with them. So it's been great that I've been at the firm for as long as I have. That's very helpful. I also think when I'm giving difficult advice, I try to be direct, which I think people appreciate. But I also try to see it from their perspective as well, think about it, how they're feeling about it, and listen to what they have to say. I think when you're counseling people, it's really important to be a good listener as well. But I do think probably the most important tool I have is I think people understand when I'm, giving them advice, I'm really coming at it from the perspective of what's in the best interest of the law firm.
And they trust you, which is extremely, extremely important. And that's something that you have done, I think, remarkably well in a very, very short period of time. So I know you do all of this with great care and finesse, and there are definitely times, as we know, when things get thorny. So again, thank you for everything you do for me, and more importantly, for the firm. One of the aspects of being a senior leader at the firm is helping all the newer leaders coming along. How have you found working with the next generation of leaders at Weil, and what keeps you excited about and so committed to Weil now and in the future?
Well, again, it's really, again, I think about going back to when I first started. You remember, Ira and Harvey and Todd were still practicing, and it was hard to picture Weil Gotcha without those three impactful leaders. But as you know, no one person, is irreplaceable, and no person is bigger than the firm as a whole. So that's what makes me so excited about the future. We have so many effective leaders who are passionate and energetic about, what the platform has, and they really want to build on what they've been handed to and make it better. I'm excited to be part of bridging the past with the future.
I am thrilled that you will be around to provide that strategic advice to our newer leaders who I have the most confidence in, but I'm glad that you're going to be around to provide that senior statesman advice to them.
Well, thank you.
I want to round out today's conversation by asking you something just a little bit more open-ended, which is, who is a leader outside of the legal industry that you admire and why?
Well, I know you're a big Michigan fan, so you probably hope I'm saying Dusty May.
Yes, I am.
But I'm not. I'm going to keep it a little closer to home. I'm going to say my great-grandmother, Caterina Carangelo. She and my great-grandfather, Antonio, came to the U.S. from Italy in the very early 1900s. They had 8 children. And when Antonio passed away from the Spanish flu, 6 of those 8 children were still under the age of 18.
Wow.
But she never wavered from her desire to make sure that her children fit into their new country. And she constantly stressed to them, you have to do everything better than everyone else because you got to overcome the cultural stereotypes, including that everyone believed all Italians were in the mafia. She worked incredibly hard. She had a day job. She had a night job. And at the end of the day, she overcame the obstacles and she did her job. Two of her sons were doctors, 2 were small business owners, one was a chemist, one was successful in the financial market. So to me, she had a vision, she had perseverance, and she had charisma. And I think those are three qualities that are really important in a leader.
That is awesome. So I'm going to change direction a little bit and have a little bit of fun with a lightning round of questions, and I'll see if maybe I'll interrupt some of the answers, but we'll see. So, what's your go-to cuisine for a takeout dinner?
Well, I don't think this will come as much surprise to you, but it's chicken parm with a side of pasta.
That is not a surprise at all. Having had many dinners with you, that's not a surprise. If you had not chosen law, what would you be doing now?
Probably banking.
Okay. What's your favorite vacation spot, the so-called happy place?
Well, I love Italy. Gun to my head, I'd say Capri is probably my favorite place.
Okay, I would have guessed that as well. What's a personal or professional pet peeve?
Slow drivers. I hate slow drivers, especially when they're clogging up the left lane on the highway.
I agree with that. I want to have a sign that says, please get out of the left lane if you're not passing.
Exactly.
What celebrity would play you in your biopic?
Joe Pesci.
Wow. I have a lot of comments, but I'll leave them aside. What's the best advice you've ever received from a mentor?
That's tough. I've had a lot of good advice, a lot of different people. I think one of the ones I think is very interesting is that sometimes when you're facing a problem or a thorny issue, the best thing to do is nothing. Let time play out and see what happens.
What's your favorite high school extracurricular activity?
Playing on the varsity soccer team.
What position?
I was a forward.
Okay. What was your favorite TV show as a teenager?
There's a lot of good TV. I say Columbo. My dad used to watch it. He got me into it. The fun thing about that show was you knew who the murderer was right in the beginning. And you got to watch Peter Falk build the case.
What is a bucket list item that you've yet to accomplish?
Playing Augusta National since it's Masters Week.
Yes, that is one bucket list item that I have accomplished, and it is clearly a bucket list item. Give me one song from your Desert Island playlist.
Thunder Road. Now, again, I know you like to sing. You go ahead and you can sing a verse if you want, but I'm not going to join you.
No, I'm not singing on tape. I only sing when I'm not being recorded. Rob, this was fantastic. I want to thank you for coming and doing this. This was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it, Barry.